Hello everybody, my name is Scott Hill. I'm from 3D Security and Response Services. Recently we had the opportunity to do a presentation on security and emergency management, and we wanted to share that presentation with you. If you have any comments or questions about the presentation, our contact information is on the slide, and please feel free to contact us. As I mentioned, this is a brief presentation, so there'll be 5 points that we'll be discussing. The first will be some presentation quotes, and then we're going to discuss the 4 levels of learning when it comes to security and emergency management. We'll then talk about level 3, both with the security audit and with the emergency management and hazard identification. We'll talk about mitigation and then share some preparation stories. The first quote is from Star Wars, just saying, "Ready are you? What know you of ready?" And we're going to explore this concept more when we talk about stage 1 of the learning. But the second quote, "Preparation through education is less costly than learning through tragedy." So in the emergency management and security field, we feel that you will learn. Now, you might learn after the fact, or you might learn by being prepared, but you will learn, and it's always less costly and less hard to learn in advance of an incident taking place. Next, we're going to look at the 4 stages of learning. So this is sometimes also known as the 4 levels of competence. And we're going to start at the bottom of the triangle and work our way up. So at the bottom of the triangle, you'll see it says ignorance. And this is where you don't know what you don't know, which comes back to what we're saying about Yoda. You think you're ready? What do you know about being ready? And this is where a site might have security vulnerabilities or gaps in their emergency management plan, or they don't have an emergency management in plan for a certain scenario. So they don't know that there's a problem and they don't know what to do about it. Now, when you move to the next layer, which is level 2, conscious incompetence, this is where we know there's a problem, but we don't know what to do about it. And unfortunately, this usually happens after a security event or emergency event has taken place. Now we know that there's problems, we know that there's gaps, but we don't know what to do about it. So that brings us to the third level, which is conscious competence. This is where committees are formed, research is done, third parties are brought in to plan and make sure that now we know there's a problem and we know what we're going to do about it. And we move up to the last level where that system is in place, it's practiced, and it is known to be uh, a valid solution for our security or emergency management situations. This diagram shows the difference between level 1 and level 2 when it comes to budgets. So the first jar would be level 1, when you don't know what you don't know. And at that time, very little money is put into proactive planning. After the fact, or when you get to level 2 where you know there's a problem, then the budget goes up quite a bit. And unfortunately, most sites play a premium on this because they have to do it very fast to address a problem that should have been addressed previously, so that there is a higher cost of doing the business. One thing that we get asked once we get to the level 2 and we're moving up into level 3 is, what can we do from a security side to ensure that there are no vulnerabilities within the property? And one of them is a security audit. So a security audit is a report that's completed by a consultant that is impartial, not tied to the building in any way, shape, or form. And what it does is it identifies the areas of compliance and the deficiencies within the physical protection system, the PPS, or the overall holistic security of this site. It will take those vulnerabilities and it will provide recommendations on how you can address those vulnerabilities. And it will also provide recommendations to reduce, eliminate, or mitigate the risks that are found within the building. Much like a security audit, a emergency management plan starts off with a review of the potential hazards that that site might face. So they will look at the probability of an event occurring, and it'll also look at the impact that that event could have on the people or the information or the property. Once it takes those probability and consequences into bank account, the report will look at history to see does this occur frequently, and will also evaluate the site's ability to respond to an emergency. Does it need outside resources to respond? Can the security team respond? Can the in-house resources respond? And it will make recommendations on how to respond and recover from an emergency event. Both the security audit and emergency management talked about consequences or impact and probability. And we use this chart to help us show the risk of each vulnerability that we find. So if we look at the consequences, it ranges from fatal to relatively unimportant. And if we look at the probability, which is horizontal, it's almost impossible to almost certain to occur. So if we look at either extremes, a 6E risk would be relatively unimportant and almost impossible to occur, as opposed to a 1A risk, which is almost certain to occur and will be fatal. So obviously most risks will fall in between these two extremes, but by setting a number and a color code to it, it allows the stakeholders to decide which vulnerability needs to be addressed first. This is a picture that I keep to keep us humble and to illustrate that you don't know what you don't know. So this is the 3D Security and Response Services office and our telephone and communications room on the first day of moving into it. And on that first day, we had an important Zoom meeting, and as luck would have it, we lost all power to the neighborhood. So there obviously that meant that our modem was not working, so we couldn't get internet. So what you see in the first picture is the jumper pack from one of our mobile vehicles hooked in so that we could power the modem and use a laptop to attend the meeting. So we didn't know what we didn't know. In that case, it was our first day in the office. We didn't know that our communication room was not on emergency power. So the second picture is the second day of us being in the office, and you'll see that there's an uninterrupted power supply surge protector put there in order to make sure that should that situation ever occur again, that we are fully covered. So it's just a little picture that I present to say that you never stop learning and to keep us humble. Our situational awareness training teaches us to keep our takeaways in group of 3. Under crisis, the human brain remembers 3 things, and that's why we have things like call 911 or stop, drop, and roll. So the first takeaway that we'd like to present is that the sites and businesses, you might not know what your emergency or security vulnerabilities are, what the gaps are. And that's why we need to look at what could happen. So bringing in a fresh pair of eyes, such as a consultant or emergency planner, will show you look at what could happen, not what has happened, because that's easy, but you need to know what could happen and what would be the impact on the business. And the third one is to bring stakeholders into the know. So we talked about the ability to respond to an emergency and involve your office staff or your site super or the cleaners or the security guards or the concierge into the drills and training so that they are able to react and help the business in case of an emergency. Thank you for watching this video. This is a subject that we are quite passionate about, making sure that businesses and sites and condominiums are protected. If you have any questions or comments about the information, please use the contact information on the screen and reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.